people that are building potentially for the first time or new home owners, they are a bit belittled by the big guys when they want something custom done, and they just basically turn around and say no, which I don't think is very fair for someone who's trying to get their forever home done at a reasonable price. I mean, these guys aren't trying to do it as cheap as possible, but they want a nice home.
Yeah, I think they call them the supermarket homes, and I guess it would feel a lot like that. You've put everything in your trolley, and then you get to the checkout, and then you're putting it all in there, and then you go, but I wouldn't mind this, and I wouldn't mind that, and then all of a sudden they go, no, 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 there's people behind you. You got to
Yeah.
get your stuff and get out of here, and that's what it's one analogy that I've always looked at with the custom builder versus the volume builders.
Thinking about building or renovating? Or maybe you are already knee-deep in a project now. Are you feeling unsure of which steps to take and if you are making the right calls? You're not alone. Welcome to Builders Beyond Borders, the podcast where experienced Aussie builders share real stories, insider tips, and practical advice so you can build with confidence, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy the journey. Let's dive in.
G'day guys, welcome back to our podcast of Builders Beyond Borders. Today we've got Andy from Purway Constructions over in Perth, myself, Matthew Orr, we're down in southwest Victoria in Warrnambool, the other end of the Great Ocean Road. We've also got Paul from Independent Building Solutions in Canberra, and we have Hugh from New Realm Homes in southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. We've also got Dean and Shannon, who were on last week's podcast. So as part of our podcast last week, we had a bit of an introduction on how why we're doing this, also a little bit about ourselves. So over to Dean and Shannon.
Yeah, hi, my name's Dean from DJH Builders. We're based in the northern state of Tasmania, around the Launceston greater region. We specialise in renovations, extensions, bathrooms, all kind of the smaller jobs that a lot of the bigger builders aren't particularly interested in. I have been in the industry for over 20 years and running this company for almost 13 now. So we've seen a lot of things go down and changes happen. I started off in a carpentry sense, done my apprenticeship in the early 2000s, worked in commercial construction, schools, hospitals and things along those lines, and have been site foreman for large school jobs and things, multi-million-dollar projects in the past. After the GFC, sort of 2011, 2012 happened, there was a large downturn of work from the government side of things, which made up probably about 80% of our work, and basically had to leave the company that I was working for to ultimately start my own business. This business in 2012, we've done a lot of learning over the past 10 years or so, and have now got a pretty strong crew of 6 employees on site, plus Shannon and myself. So yeah, it's been a slow process, but we're quite happy with where we're at the moment.
Awesome. And Shannon, what's your input into the business?
I haven't been working with the business for the term of the 12 or 13 years that we've been running it. I had a career in recruitment and the employment industry prior to coming on board with DJH Builders. I sort of did a bit in the background, but nothing extensive because I had my own career. So after having kids, I came on board and was doing a lot of bookkeeping, a lot of admin work. But in the last couple of years, I've sort of delegated those roles out to people who help us, and I take more of doing financial analysis, helping with scheduling, and I'm the first point of contact for clients that come into our business. A lot of the background management of the automation of the company and client support, I guess, and that sort of stuff, and the workings of the websites and all that sort of thing. Just sort of coordinating all of those tasks, those hundreds of tasks that bring together a business.
Awesome. And what do you think how do you think the podcast can help clients that you've got now, ex-clients and future, prospects as well?
Education, I think, is is key. Along with communication, we try and reiterate to all our clients and potential clients is key in the building industry. We try and build a strong connection in communication with those guys and along with our team. So I think this is going to be a useful tool for anyone that is looking at building, renovating, anything like that, to realise what goes on in the background in terms of communication, what the builder actually does. It's not all just hammers and nails and all that sort of stuff. So I think awareness and on communication is key for what we're trying to get out of it.
Awesome. That's great. And what about you, Shannon? What are you hoping to get out of the podcast?
Yeah, I think that we, especially being the person who's the first point of contact for our prospects that come through, I think I'd appreciate and make it easier for people coming through to us if there was a broader approach instead of us trying to educate people one at a time. If we can do it as a bit of a blanket, and people that are watching can see the things that we're teaching people as they come through our door. So yeah, a bit more of a broader reach to teach and educate on the messages that we're sending out there.
We've got Hugh as well from New Realm Homes in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. Yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. My name's Hugh. I run a company called New Realm Homes in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, based in Vermont, and yeah, we are predominantly a new home development company, specialising in California bungalows. That's predominantly what we love to do, and yeah, I guess you'd say, well, for myself, like I've been in the industry for near on 25 years now, and been trying to bring as many heritage listed homes back to life if they've been falling apart. Yeah, that's really me and what we do, and yeah, I think the being able to sort of showcase everything from a builder's point of view to clients, possible clients, or anything like that, or anybody that's just looking for information about what's going on in the building industry is going to be something that's really positive. All we can do is help each other, and yeah, we can just have fun with it. So yeah, hope that we can actually have some fun and showcase what builders actually do in the background, and we're not just sort of swinging hammers and making ourselves look a little bit silly, hanging from rafters and doing all those silly things, because we've all done it. And coming from a carpentry background, I know all the dangers and that sort of thing that come from some of the silly things that we can do. And yeah, we've just got to make sure that we're being safe and can bring everything for clients and customers as best as possible.
Brilliant. You actually do have a podcast on the side as well, don't you? You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I do. My podcast is off to the side. It's called The Builder's Office, and similar to this, it's dealing with all the issues that could possibly happen for clients. And so my podcast specifically goes out to homeowners and people looking to build, and it's just to run through possible issues that could be arising right from the first moment you're sort of thinking of building right through to completion, and afterwards as well, because we all know that there's defects that come along with things, and the building process is in a fun way, but also not in a negative way. The building process and the way that everything sort of works, there are flaws across the industry everywhere. When you experience them, it's one of those things that can be brought to the forefront. And that's one of the things that the podcast is there for, is showcasing what goes on well in the building industry, but also if there are problems, someone can find a little bit of information and a little bit of assistance to be able to at least guide them through the process to get a builder's point of view on what could possibly happen. Because I mean, there's been a couple of times where there've been questions come through and we've been able to answer them in the podcast. And yeah, I guess in a lot of ways we can try and do some of that here, and we can assist everybody that's sort of coming towards us with that information, and they can have that before they even speak to anybody that's going to be doing any work on their house.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And this is completely off topic until we get right into it, but how have you found that the podcast has developed relationships with prospects and current clients that you've got? Have you found it beneficial?
Look, definitely from the perspective that having the information sort of readily available and can have that in a series of emails that might be going out to potential clients, the leads that come through, and also in some of our marketing material as well, has given us the opportunity to foster better relationships, because a lot of people, they get to know us before we even get to know them. The relationships that we get, because people understand who we are, they've got that genuine, authentic feeling from us before they've actually met us. They already feel aligned with our purpose before they speak to us. And that's
the connection, isn't it?
it is, and very much so. I mean, building it's holistic. It's not just one thing. A lot of people will sit around and think that, hey, hold on a second, I'm building a house. This person is there to do this work for me. In a lot of ways, yes, that can be true. But as builders, we're also looking at everything else that goes into a building. Might just be the product that's looked at the end, but what happens during the process, the experience that people get, the difference of opinions that can come along with different things that happen during building as well. We're looking at all of that. And we found that when people have a better idea of who we are, that makes the building experience a lot better. And so we're with a podcast and people getting to know us, and through other videos that go onto social media or in some of our mailed out information, and the way that people sort of come into the business, we've found that video medium, because the podcast has been recorded predominantly on video, the benefit to clients before they even get in the door and start doing any building is they're ultimately going to be armed with a lot more information to be able to feel more confident in their decision about what they're actually going to be doing in building.
Brilliant. And that gets on to, another topic that we're going to be talking about in another episode. But look, thank you for that. Thanks, Dean and Shannon, as well, for your introduction and why we're doing this. I think, we're all here for the right reasons. We're all here trying to educate our clients. It's not all about building authority, but it is about building relationships with prospects, clients that we've got, and ex-clients, as you know. So look, the topic of this podcast is obviously, as I said before, it's the difference between a custom builder and a volume builder. I'm going to throw it out there and say that everyone's just going to go, it's the price. It's always the price. But there's so many different things that I think go with a custom builder that you just don't get with the volume builder. So, and we'll discuss these as we go through. Dean and Shannon, you'd be able to test the price not only being the same, the difference in the main difference of a volume builder and a custom builder.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't had a great deal to do with volume builders until recently. I actually have a good mate of mine in Queensland who is going through one of the largest volume builders in Australia, and he is almost at the point where he was discussing with his wife the other day that he will fly me up there to build his house. That's not feasible, obviously, but just some of their processes and things like that have been left up in the air. Things that they will and won't do or even consider has been a bit of a strange one for me, I think. With my experience with working with clients and things like that, you usually try and make their experience as flawless as possible and give them the end product that they're happy with. And I think with people that are building potentially for the first time or new home owners, they are a bit belittled by the big guys when they want something custom done, and they just basically turn around and say no, which I don't think is very fair for someone who's trying to get their forever home done at a reasonable price. I mean, these guys aren't trying to do it as cheap as possible, but they want a nice home.
Yeah, I think they call them the supermarket homes, and I guess it would feel a lot like that. You've put everything in your trolley, and then you get to the checkout, and then they, you're putting it all in there, and then you go, but I wouldn't mind this, and I wouldn't mind that, and then all of a sudden they go, no, there's people behind you. You got to get your stuff and get out of here, and that's what it's one analogy that I've always looked at with the custom builder versus the volume builders. There's plenty of stories out there that'll always go in favour of the custom builder. I guess the hardest thing for us as custom builders is trying to educate our prospective clients and clients that we've got what the main difference is one thing, and Paul, you'd probably be really good at this, I reckon, is the communication side of things. I think is one of the biggest things that separates us from volume builders. What do you think about that?
I think communication would be a big thing because you're not really talking to the man who owns the store, runs the store, as they used to say. You're dealing with a site foreman, or sometimes even a girl in the office every time you need to discuss something. So if you want to make changes, it becomes a big deal, and that's one of the biggest things with them. They're happy to give you a list of inclusions and a plan that they're going to build. But once you start to try and make a variation on something, then it becomes a major process and a very big expense. So that's something that, people don't realise until it's too late, or they don't read the fine print in terms of, a site cut or something like that. Then they say, oh, no, that price only included that house on a flat block, and then all of a sudden you've got some huge bill to do site works that you don't realise is coming. And I think the way we're doing it by sitting down and taking people through the process, explaining to them how the jobs can blow out in time and price and get all that sort of stuff sorted out before you start is a much better method. Certainly ends better because those guys don't probably get very many, if any, return customers, I would imagine.
Yeah, they do end up with a fairly bad name for themselves, and I think they shoot themselves in the foot. Like you hear of all the, you might get one PowerPoint per room, and as soon as you go and add another PowerPoint in, they start just slugging you with variations and all this sort of stuff. And I think most of the people don't find that information out until the contract signed. That's the exciting part. They've signed the contracts. They're all, this is, for some people, it might be their forever home. Some people, it might be their first home. But then they end up with that nasty taste in their mouth when they get to the end and they go, well, you've only got one PowerPoint for your pantry or, your bedroom or whatever, and you might want to put 2 or 3 in there. And then all of a sudden, they then go back to the contract and start seeing that, there's all these clauses in there that just add variation after variation. And sometimes, like I've read one of their contracts before, and per variation was $1,000 fee. So if you wanted to change one PowerPoint, it was $1,000 to start the admin process, and then it was the cost to actually perform the duty as well. Andy, I want to touch base with you a little bit over in Perth. You're doing, you've got the tiny home side business, I guess you'd call it, which aligns a lot with, the sustainability that we're facing with, the star ratings and all that we're trying to achieve with our homes that we're building. What do you reckon the difference would be between a custom builder and a volume builder when it comes to sustainability and energy efficiency in their practices? Like, what they're offering?
Yeah, good question, Matt. So we've started the journey into the tiny home space because there's a demand at the moment over here in WA. There's a shortage. There's like less than 2,000 houses for rent and less than 2,000 houses for sale. So big demand. And most of my competitors that we have found are building in metal frame walls, metal frame roofs, single glazed windows, and basic wrapping around the building. And as we're educating ourselves more to be a better builder for healthier homes, that we're understanding about passive principles, double glazed windows. And I'm from Ireland, as you can tell by the accent, that's all double glazing in Ireland, and now it's going to triple glazing windows. So I think Australia, well, definitely Portside is behind the 8 ball, and it has to get better. So the cost, just the difference there already is we are definitely up in the game here. And I'm just educating one client at a time, because when they come over to the warehouse, they see the tiny home being built, but we have a mock-up of 2 walls. We have the standard WA wall that they build stick frame, Bunnings wrap, and a cladding on top. And that's what you're allowed with the NCC code. That's what you're allowed to build. And when I showed them the Purway wall, there's nearly 10 to 14 steps on it. And then they're like, wow, look at the difference in this. And I'm telling them about the science, about the health, the heat recovery systems that we're putting into these buildings, because the dust and stuff in people's houses, we're inhaling this, and the heat recovery pushes in the good air and out the bad air. And that is for asthma and stuff. So there's not many builders out here even thinking like this at the moment, and it has to change. And I feel like we're stepping in ahead of everyone else, Matt. So, but the difference between us as a small family business builders, like we've all talked about it. You go to that shiny house as a display unit and you're like, wow, and the bells and whistles are there. And some designer has put a lot of time and effort into design this to give you this perception that I'm going to go with this builder, I'm going to get this house. That does not happen. And I said, That does not happen. And when you come to a builder like us in here, you're going to get changed along the way. And I think a lot of us here would waive a lot of the variations. If something came up, we're like, yeah, we'll get that sorted, we move on. But if it's a big variation, we'd have to note and say, listen, this has to be noted, and we get it sorted. And it's going to get done straight away. So little things like that, Matt, I'm just listening to everyone else there. And we're here to help. That's it. Like, we're here to help the future people building their dream home, is not to rush into a project builder. And this is the input I'm giving today, guys, because I'm hearing the horror stories. It's 4 years for a house to be built here in Perth. Shocking. It's actually shocking what's happening.
I know in the NCC, where a lot of the building codes are derived from, especially with the energy rating of homes and stuff like that, I feel it's a very broad climate zone. You know how they zone each state and territory. It, like the difference, say, between, if they say Victoria, like Southwest Victoria, I'll only say that because I'm aware of it, but the difference between the cold for us, I've got an ocean about 400 metres that way, compared to someone that is inland by an hour. They're still in the same climate zone, but I would imagine the cold in there, an hour away, is going to get, like, it's way colder there than what it is here. So we've just built a house here with double glazing windows, and they're great windows, don't get me wrong, but I do notice that there is a massive heat and cold transfer between the aluminium. So I think even triple glazing, like, I know they say that the thermostat windows, like the PVC ones and ones like that, are brilliant for stopping that, and your thermal barriers and that. But these kinds of conversations, I would almost put $1 million on you walking into a volume builder. They're not going to be having these discussions with you at all. Yeah, I think it's really important that, you know, when people look at the difference between a custom and a volume builder, these are the custom builder, as you'll hear, is probably going to care a lot more about what we're trying to achieve for each client, because our reputation is per job, and it's what we're trying to do. So whereas the other guys, as I said, they sign the contract, get the sale, and then that's it. They sort of brush their hands.
If we don't learn what's better for ourselves and our healthy homes, it's like we'll just keep going the way it's going, and it has to change, because majority of us live in these homes up to 60% of our lives. Some people never leave their house and they stay in there. And the difference is just putting double glazed windows, better ceiling bats, better membranes around the house already. That's just increasing the healthiness of your home. So that's some gold nuggets that people will get from these little, when they're driving, they're like, oh, double glazed windows, what's this about? Like an extra 10 grand to $15,000 instead of single glazed windows. Just talk to your builder. If you're going to a project builder, say, I want double glazing. Get it done before you sign the contract. It might cost a bit of money now, but at least you're getting double glazed windows into your house straight away. Because the last thing you want to do is spend $500,000-$600,000, and then you're like, geez, these windows are crap. And they will break after a few years with the heat and the expansion and the cold, and you're like, wow. So that's a little nugget for me.
Oh, very good. Thank you. Hugh, I just want to touch base with you, because I know that this is an area where you've put a fair bit of work into recently, and I think you may have done a podcast on it, or you've done a few reels and some discussion on social media about it. How do you think custom builders handle variations compared to volume builders?
Actually, a really tough question. And going down the path of your volume builder and how they handle variations, and sometimes not large volume builders, they all operate on the same sort of model when it comes to costings and that sort of thing. The variations that come in when you're going down a volume builder road is, it could be as simple as changing a PowerPoint or anything like that, because they do have the systems, they have the processes for handling all of this, and you can't just walk on site and do an inspection with your site supervisor and expect something to change. And you'll get thrown back to, hey, look, we need you to go back to the office, put up a request for a variation, and even if it is just, we want to move that PowerPoint from there over to the other side of the room, or we all want to add another one in, then you're going to get the costs associated with just preparing that variation, because they've got office people working, doing all that sort of thing. And whether that variation goes ahead because of the cost comes back and they say, oh, look, it's going to be $1,200 to move a PowerPoint. That's the cost. There's no getting away from it. And but the cost for the preliminary work that's done by the office workers, you're still getting charged for that before anything else. So you've already got some costs associated with that. Whereas a lot of smaller custom one-off home builders, they won't do a variation fee or anything like that. And generally, when you're standing out on site, someone will be standing there and they'll be chatting to you. And generally, you're speaking with the person who ultimately can make that decision straight away and can give you a yes or no answer. They can give you, even if it is just a piece of paper to say, look, what are you looking for? You're looking for a PowerPoint to be moved from one side of the room to the other. Okay, look, that's not going to affect the contract price because it's not large enough to be. I think what is it in Victoria? I think it's without necessarily being silly. I think if it's not going to affect the contract price of the project by anything more than 2%, I think it's just can be, yep, go ahead. Just nobody needs to even agree to it, and it can just be done.
Yeah.
So this is where the difference between a large company compared to a small company. The large company, when it comes to a variation, they're going to have a process and you have to follow it. If you don't follow it, nothing changes. And if it does change, then you're going to end up in litigation. More than likely, you will end up in litigation because the builder's going to send you a bill, and whether you agreed to it or not, you're going to have to pay some money. That's going to be the be all and the end all of it. Whereas with a smaller builder, a lot of the times, because you can have that discussion with the people, the person who's going to be making the decision is going to give you a yes or no pretty much on the spot. And then, of course, you'll be able to find out what's going on. Now, personally, when it comes to the issue with variations, I've had some issues with variations in the past. And it just comes down to actually what's been agreed to more than anything else. And it's the documenting of it that needs to be done. And whether it goes ahead or not, whether you get charged a fee for the variation, irrespective of any of that, it's documenting it so that everybody knows what's going on. Because if there's one minor change when it comes to the plans, without it documented, if anything goes badly, you just end up with massive dramas, massive headaches, and lawyers getting thrown at you and going, "Oh, well, we need this."
The other thing too, I suppose, with a major corporation like, I'm not going to name names of volume.
Oh, come on, just name drop. It's more fun.
No, I don't think it's fair. Another thing, not only the emotional side of things, but I think time delays.
Yes.
You know, they would be looking for any excuse when they're running so many projects and they've got all these people at them, and everything seems to be just cutthroat with that industry, the volume build industry. And I guess that's where they maybe cutting corners and all that sort of stuff. But time delays would be something that they would love. Like they'd look at it, go, "Oh, here, we've got a variation here. Well, let's not put the variation in straight away. Let's accept it or process it. But then that gives us a chance to put a time extension on the contract, which then further sours the experience with the client."
Well and truly, at the end of the day, as soon as you're asking for a variation, because people are having to essentially stop work on a site to process a variation, hypothetically speaking, let's just say that you're wanting a change to a particular wall that might be an external wall on a house, and it might be a window to be moved or something like that. A lot of things can't progress without that variation agreement being made for that change. And so it might take a day or two to start the processing. So automatically, as soon as it comes to that and you're asking for a change and guys are on site and they're doing that particular job at that time and you're wanting that change, from that moment that you ask for it, you're going to be getting a extension of time claim from the builder to process that immediately from that moment, even if you don't go ahead with it, because they'll essentially will be saying to the guys on site, you need to hold for a minute, don't proceed with that. And then the delay sort of comes in from there. So there are delays to it. Whether the work goes ahead or not, there will be a delay thrown at you somewhere along that process. Because as soon as it comes to any kind of variation, the time just to quote it, and when we consider the costing of it, just like how long it took to produce the price for your home at the beginning, it still takes time to work out those costs. And so the time delays that are going to be associated with that also are going to come into it, and they're going to play on your mind. So it's one of the things that I've said to people before they even consider a variation is consider putting everything on the table before you even decide that you want to go ahead with it. Because if you come in with 30 different things that you want to change and you come in with that at once, that's going to be better for somebody to work out than coming in every 10 minutes with something different that you want to change.
It's only going to, as we said, it's only going to slow the project down. And then,
That's right.
you've got some people that have to be moving out of rental properties. Majority of people that are building with volume builders, and I'm not being judgmental at all, but they would be renting and then finally saved up all the money they can, and then they want to get out of the rental market and get into the first home market, which is what we see. Dean, I'll go to you with this next question. I think that what Hugh's been able to explain leads us on to an area that I think the volume builders probably wouldn't put as much effort into, would be contracts. How much effort do you put into your, you've signed a contract for extension, bathroom, new build, whatever it is. How much effort do you put into your contract talks with your client?
We spend a lot of our time with our proposal as made up as part of our quote. Then we have a sit down with our contracts. We use our master builders contracts here in Launceston, and we sit down and go through the entire contract with those guys, along with a residential consumer guide that we have to attach with our quotes, with our contracts as well. When we do our proposals and subsequent quotes with that, they outlined every step of the process from go to woe, basically, and then once the project's finished, go into our after sales care from then on. What some of the volume builders do, and not even the big name ones. I know there is one locally here with their variations and things. They don't particularly make it clear on their markups that they charge until a client potentially wants to make a variation. I know there's one locally here, they have a 40% markup on their variations, which is ridiculous. So if someone decides that they've halfway through the project, they might like stone bench tops because Joe Blow down the street's got stone bench tops. You add 40% on top of it. That's a big whack of change that, they're probably scraping their last 2 bob together to get stone bench tops, and then to find out it's going to cost them 40% more on what the cost would be and an administration fee on top of it. I don't think that's fair. I think the industry standards, I'm not too sure what you guys do. We do 15%, which is, I think, is pretty fair across the board with variations. So we outline that from the get-go with our contracts. It's all written down in there, and our clients are made aware of it. So,
well, I think that's the key, is the awareness, isn't it?
And sorry, we've been through the actual proposed works as well so thoroughly that they know exactly what they're getting. It's not just that they've ticked and flicked 17,000 pages worth of stuff and they've made choices 6 months ago and then can't remember them when it comes time that we're installing things. So we run through every step of this is that for that. Yep, I'm happy with that. I've seen that. I've felt that. I've gone into the showroom of the joiners and really I love that. And they really feel it as opposed to just tick box and not really knowing what they're selecting, going for a budget range, and then they've got the choice out of 2 bench tops. And they're so clear from the start, they can nearly visualize what it's going to look like.
And to spend the time with the clients and their drawings to make them realise what could be in there or potentials for changes prior to signing a contract as well. So, do you realise your driveway is a little bit narrow here? I think there's enough room. If we extended 1.5 meters, you can have an extra car space there and things like that. I just don't think those conversations are had with the volume builders as such.
Yeah,
that comes back to that communication at the start, doesn't it? Like we were talking about earlier.
Definitely.
So, I'll just jump in and get your take on it, mate. Matt, what's your procedure, or how do you think does it operate the same down your way too? Does it?
Oh, look, the volume builders down our way have got a shocking name for themselves. It seems to be, it's obviously the people that do see the price. They see that you can get this for this, and we're going to throw in 40 grand worth of extras and all that. It's all smoke and mirrors. We've got a guy literally 4 houses down. His house it was with a volume builder with a big letter M at the front. I'll let you work out which one that is. They nearly demolished the house. So they had 15 what was it, 15 faults that had been picked up with the screw piles of the position of the slab. So over there, he was on sandy soil. They put some screw piles in, and then afterwards, a bit of rain, and they've gone, hang on, why's the screw pile exposed? So the actual weight of the slab wasn't even sitting on it. And then as he saw that, he started going through further and further with his inspections, and started seeing trusses on the lean by 100 mil. And anyway, he's gone to mediation with them and worked out whatever he had to work out. The house it looks fine from the street. It looks exactly the same as every other one that's been built. But the thing that I talk to him a lot about is his overall experience. He ended up paying a lot of money to VCAT, which I think he got reimbursed from. But the health story that he goes through, his health suffered. They had to rent for another 12 months, which I'm pretty sure he would have been reimbursed by them. It's cost after cost after cost. And at the end of the day, he looked at me and he goes, I should have just swallowed the difference between a custom builder and a volume builder and gone with a custom builder, and he would have been on par by the time he come out the other end, and he would have had a much better product, a much better experience. Everyone's happy. So I guess out of it all, and what we're trying to teach everyone is the customer experience is the most important part of it. And if you get to work with a custom builder, you're going to have a pretty good run, I think.
Well, that's the biggest issue, isn't it? It's communication, like we said. So they need to get a builder they can talk to and trust. And so a lot of that stuff too that you're talking about comes back to trades. And the trades that they're using in these bigger volume jobs, see, they don't want to pay. They want to keep the price down, so they don't want to pay good money. So they're not getting good tradesmen, and they're not getting things done properly too, which is another issue that people don't think about or don't understand either, unless it's explained to them at the start as well. So that's,
like your purchase orders and stuff like that, getting paid square meter rates or lineal meter rates and things like that for jobs. All it's doing is setting up the job to look like a dog's breakfast, because you've got to put less time into it in order to make the money that you deserve as a tradesman. Unfortunately, the tradesmen just get trapped into that lifestyle. Cost of living goes up, amount of effort that goes into the job gets less, so that you can still survive. And it's like a seesaw effect sort of thing. So, but there's just no balance with the volume, from what I've seen, with the volume build experience. So,
well, they don't treat their people very well, or there's probably no sort of connection at all. They're just a number. It's not like, you guys are, you and your staff are all like a family, and you look after each other, you help each other, and you watch each other's back and make sure everything gets done right. There's none of that sort of stuff in a big volume. It's just, like I say, they're just sitting in an ivory tower, and everyone's just a number, and they're just crunching numbers at the end of the day. It's got nothing to do with the product that's coming out at the end.
That's right. We had a really good feedback from people we did, and going on what you're talking about there, we did an extension for some people, and then at the end of it, we asked how it all went. She was, absolutely stoked with how it went, but she said the disappointing thing was that we came into their home for 6 to 8 months of their lives, and then she was absolutely shattered, and as her kids were as well, when it just finishes up. And, instead of us being there at 7:30 every morning, and then we leave at 4, and we're becoming part of their daily rituals, and they're, being there for them to offer us a cake or a coffee or whatever it is, and building friendships with them. And then all of a sudden we're just gone. And that was her most disappointing part. So that just goes to show the care and the concern that we've got and the relationships we're trying to build with people. So yeah, it's just a no-brainer from our side of things, who you'd choose, out of a customer or a volume home. So anyway, I think that's us pretty much wrapped up for this episode. So I want to thank all our guests for being here and for your contribution, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to Builders Beyond Borders. If today's episode helped you feel more prepared, clearer, or more confident, share it with a mate who's planning their own build or reno. Got a question about building, renovating, or working with tradies? Send it our way. We might cover it in a future episode. And don't forget to hit follow or subscribe so you never miss the real stories, practical tips, and builder insights we've got coming your way. Everything shared on this podcast is based on our experiences and those of our guests. It's general info only. Any reliance on the information provided is done at your own risk.